It is the International Masters of Formula R 2.0. This is round 11 here at Road America, which apparently welcomes race fans. Joining me as ever is Nick to
Hello there.
call the race. And after the Nürburgring, the championship looks to be a defender's concern, and they appear to be here. As you can see, this is well into the second half of the season, rounds 11 and 12. We are in Road America in Wisconsin, and after this we go to Okayama in Japan, and a map of the circuit, a very famous American circuit that is to Oval at least.
Yeah, it's one of the great tracks of North America, along with Watkins Glen and Road Atlanta.
Yes, used by a great many series. Not that many single-seaters though go to Road America as far as I'm aware.
No, American Open Wheel Racing hasn't been here since the mid-2000s, I believe.
I look at the championship, and it is the defenders not running one into a two. Ollie Kay is second, but Ollie Kay unfortunately is missing this race again. So it is essentially between the defenders. Blairy 11 points ahead of Kimster, and the defenders are starting to pull out a big lead in the teams championship, and Junior Motorsports are once again a one-car operation here, with By Junior their only car, and Monolith are within touching distance of the Independence Championship. This is MDSP, the rookie, who took an astonishing pole position here. Nick, if you'd like to take us round the lap.
Yeah, so obviously here we come into the first corner very fast. This is the supposed turn 2, although where the turn is, no one actually seems to know.
This is what I'd call turn 2 here.
But very important in this part of the lap to have a bit of momentum, because then you can carry that all the way down the long straights as where we are now. This is possibly the trickiest part of the track, because the straight is so long it lulls you into a false sense of security, and you really have to remember where the braking zone is. But you can see MDSP gets it completely correct, using just enough from the curb on the inside. You don't want to use too much, otherwise you'll hit the grass. Using just enough throttle on the exit not to run wide, and sets himself up very nicely for the next left-hander. Again, you don't want to be on the throttle too early, otherwise you'll have to scrub speed off and lose momentum. Very quick right-hander here onto a very short straight. Another braking zone where you have to get it absolutely right, but we see MDSP does that, using just a little bit of the run-off section there before leading into the long right-hander, the carousel. Again, patience is required here. You don't want to go too early, otherwise you'll be straight off into the grass and not much run-off there. There's a little circuit there that you have to mind yourself not to pay attention to that as you go for the sweeping right-hander. Lovely little kink, overshadowed by the forest here. Again, it's another case of where's the braking zone, but MDSP gets it completely correct, times it very well. A little twitch there from the rear end, but it's got it all under control as you go into this little uphill blind left-handed sweep before setting yourself up for the last corner. Quite easy to get it wrong because it's a little bit of a blind apex and you have to time it correctly, but MDSP a little wiggle, but apart from that completely perfect. And then up the famous uphill section onto the home straight, and the pole lap is complete, just shy of the 2-minute mark.
A very impressive lap, beating Kimster by a reasonably comfortable margin to take his first pole position in what will be his third race. A very impressive debut.
Yes, we've seen so many of the series veterans come a cropper by how difficult this car, but MDSP just seemed to have got on top of it straight away.
A slightly reduced field, only 13 cars making the trip across the Atlantic to Road America, but we'll be hoping that many of them can remain close throughout the race and that they will be able to produce some good racing, as we've seen in pretty much every race this season. Even the tracks which are apparently not terribly easy to overtake on. This track is very much about momentum. You need to keep this up. You don't want to lose too much speed because there's always a big long straight somewhere further around the lap, but you need to keep momentum. And who's that?
Someone's gone off there at the back.
Don Matteo seemingly getting caught out by the speed of the other cars in the formation lap. It's rather clumsy, and P.Y. James is spun or been spun. And see Lynn and Dan Forn waiting up. Not the tidiest formation lap, really.
No, the formation lap is something pretty new to really rubbish racing, and you can still see some people are having trouble with the concept.
Yes. Yeah, so when some of the drivers say that even it's in my case that when it's almost harder to drive at these slow speeds because you're so used to driving at high speeds, and so you're more liable to get caught out by cars accelerating and slowing down in front of you.
And of course aerodynamics work best at a higher speed, so crawling around, you might think you can easily make this corner because you're going slower, but in fact it's actually even more difficult to go around.
Indeed. Is the grid MDSP, as you saw, on pole by nearly a tenth from Mr. Flobodob, Blairy and Kimster further back, and then PY James 5th, 2.2 seconds back, with Lynn a season best 6th, nearly 3 seconds back. Danfor and Crofty are row 8, Astronaut Wolf and AGOK round out the top 10. Joe Speed just misses out. Don Matteo turns 11th in Race Pro at the back, 4.4 seconds off the pace, which isn't the biggest gap we've seen this season, in fairness.
No, it isn't, but you can really see from those times the N team's dominance of this series. I think it's further 2 seconds back from Kimpster to the next place car.
Yes, PI James about 1.34 seconds off the back of Kimpster, and you can see the N team's cars in a group behind MDSP, just lagging a little bit there. Hopefully that won't be a problem in the race.
So as they make their way up to the grid now, weaving just to get a little bit more heat into their tyres. Obviously they've cooled down a lot from going at these slow speeds.
Dan Thorne seemingly locking his brakes, which is not what you want to be doing on a formation lap and flat spotting the tyres.
Yeah, if he can just keep the wheel rotating, he'll get away with that.
And now they seem to be inching along trying to find their grid boxes. They're surprisingly hard to see from the cockpit. You really do have to look at the scenery around you to find your grid box.
Yeah, it's not very easy to see those white lines in the middle of a cockpit.
No, it is not. But they look to have all found them, eventually anyway. You see some cars just jumping forward or reversing very slightly to get better into position.
Looks like a few people have gone, maybe it's just perspective, a few people are a bit too forward, but everything looks okay from race control and the lights are on.
3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights are on, and they're green, and we're off, and it's a good start from Mr. Flobodob.
MDSB just seemed to get caught out a bit there.
Yeah, he seemed to miss the lights a little. Flobodob racing the verge of jumping the start, but I don't think he did. It was just a perfect shot, and it's Defender's car running across the track, and Lynn's on into the gravel there. Seemingly got into the back of one of the Defender's cars.
Yeah, it just looked like Blairy there was tagged a little from behind and went into kind of half spin and set off a chain reaction of incidents behind them.
At the front, MDSP has retaken the lead in the first opening few corners, but is being challenged by Flobodob as they run side by side down the straight. It kinks very slightly at the end.
Threading the needle there, Flobodob.
Flobodob retakes lead, but MDSP challenges, but doesn't quite get through. There's the field. And Dan Thorne spun, and Blairy, I think it is, number 1.
Oh, it's a disaster for Blairy, because in the last 2 rounds, Kimpster looked like he had the momentum, being the chaser. Oh, we'll just see what happened here. Dan Thorne. Blairy just
synchronised
spin. Yeah.
And Dan Thorne got hit by Kimpster. And at the front, look at this.
Into the carousel.
Not usually an overtaking spot. Oh my goodness! MDSP just getting into the left rear wheel of Mr. Flobodob and into the gravel. Yeah, very lucky that wasn't a more serious incident.
You can go side by side for there, but it is so difficult, and he just misjudged the turning point.
And that's dropped him
where
behind.
Flob would be.
Dropping behind Go Speed, one of the.
Oh yeah.
Just
a bit too greedy trying to get to the inside there.
Yeah, and that's dropped him behind Joe Speed and one of the senior motorsports cars. It's possibly Crofty, so he's dropped several positions in the air. Joe Speed, by virtue of keeping out of trouble, I think is now running 3rd.
That's a break for the American.
Yes.
Home soil, and he's on a podium position.
Yes.
Someone's gone off there. Who is it?
P.Y. James. slid off the circuit, and on this home straight that will cost him a lot of time. Let's see what happens. Oh, he just gets onto the grass and does well not to spin into the barrier. Very lucky to get away with that. And Kimster. Oh my goodness. The end team's not having a good start to this race.
This is exactly like last time round, just and everyone's going off.
Background, Domitio and Lynn.
Looks like there might have been some kind of incident there for both of them to go off like that.
Yeah, the angle Domitio went into the gravel, that suggests there was some kind of business going on there. And MDSP just lagged ahead, and Kimster took avoiding action and
just got caught out. And there.
Yes. I think that might have been Lynn's fault there.
Yeah.
Right into the back of Domitio.
And as ever, AJ keeping his nose clean and benefiting from it, although now he's going to lose his place to Glary seemingly.
And Dan Thorne right behind. AJ being attacked, and P.I. James isn't far behind either. He's going to be spending a lot of this race defending by the looks of it.
Yeah. So as we've seen before, very chaotic opening laps.
Yeah, like you say, not for the first time. But everything seems to have settled down a little now.
Just a little, AJK's gone wide, and that's all the invitation Dan Thorne needs, but Dan Thorne spins.
Got onto the grass, and that was enough to spin the car. And he's got it going again, but he's lost a few positions in there, and has he stalled?
It looks like he's just waiting for everyone else to go by, and really the worst place to have a spin, because you can't see anyone coming in until it's too late, so
it's
you have
on
to be
the
very careful.
Curve. Unfortunate. Meanwhile, Joe Speed running, as we said, third, is being challenged by Mastron Wolf running fourth. Not two cars you would expect to be running this high up, but they've both kept their noses clean.
Definitely not.
They are in position for a very good result indeed here, even although the faster cars are behind them.
But they're not going to be easy to dispatch.
No, overtaking is possible on this track. Maybe not as easy as it is at, say, Nürburgring, but not as hard as Vara. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's definitely a track where you have to plan ahead for the overtake. You have to know where you want to overtake and how to get the best line up to that corner.
Yes, definitely. Oh, who's that? Is that
Master One Wolf?
Oh dear, and
it's the Canadian.
He got into the barrier by the looks of it. Did he get tagged by Blairy?
It looks like
he just got onto the curb. And that's
his race run.
That's a very big shame. One of two North Americans in the field looking for a good result.
Road America, of course, is very close to Canada, right next to the border.
Yes, in Wisconsin.
So a few Winnipeg locals would have come down to cheer him on, but not the greatest day for them so far.
No, there's another race to come, and the damage, while serious, should be fixable in time for the next race.
Let's see, Kimster, as I said before, had a lot of momentum going to this round, but that seems to have stalled for the moment.
I wonder if he's carrying some damage. He did take quite a big bang against Dan Thorne and another against the barrier shortly afterwards, so he might be carrying suspension damage, even if it's not particularly visible on the cameras.
Yeah, he seems to be going through these corners at a lower speed than you'd expect. Maybe he's got some kind of understeer, because you did see him take all of the runoff before.
He's behind AGOK, who you would normally expect to be significantly faster than.
And he's not exactly closing up at him at a rate of knots. He's slowly reeling him in, but not at the pace you would expect.
No, definitely not.
Everything seems to be fine with the engine there. It's just the cornering ability I think is compromised.
I think he's running slightly lower because he's definitely catching AGOK on the straight and with the benefits of the slipstream. So if he can just keep close in the corners, he should have a good chance of getting past. And look how much he's close since the final corner and making a move.
Side by side into turn 3, and that's fairly simple.
Yes, just seemingly able to carry a lot more speed on the straights in AGOK, and that's the result.
But AJK will have the slipstream now, so it's not done by any means for Kimster. The straight is long enough that we've seen before that you can just drive by them before even to the braking zone, but I think the lower rear wing of Kimster...
And he outbrakes himself. And
very messy.
AJOK goes through.
And here's our unchallenged leader, Mr. Flobberdog.
Yes. Yes, he's another one who has kept his nose out of trouble to just run away with this seemingly. MDSP, his nearest challenger, of course, just getting into the back of him on the opening laps and going into the gravel and losing a lot of ground.
And he's just taking things very calmly. He doesn't need to panic, just keep going. 9/10 kind of speed and worry about anyone else if they come up to him, which I don't think is going to happen at this rate.
He does have to be careful though, that's if somebody does come up behind him and if he is easing off just a little. And you can see MDSP isn't that far behind. If he is easing off too much, he might have difficulty responding to any challenges. MDSP has made very good progress, having lost several positions at the start of the race, and is now running in second place, and we don't really see the gaps, but look to have closed a little on Flobberdog.
Yeah, he's still got plenty enough time to do it, but he might want to pick up the pace a little bit.
I'm sure he'll be going absolutely flat out.
And here we have Blairy, who's made his way back up to third now, after his earlier misadventures.
Yes, had several incidents, and Joe Speed looks like he's just been overtaken by PY James.
He's still running well though. Fifth place is probably about where his natural pace is at the moment. He has been very impressive so far.
Yes, he qualified just outside the top 10, and I'm sure he would definitely take fifth place if it was offered to him.
We have seen flashes of speed from Joe Speed before, but something seems to happen to him in a race, a first lap incident. But at the moment he's running on a straight and narrow, and quite confident that he could probably keep that place.
Yeah, he's not made any major mistakes, which we'll be very encouraged by.
Of course, if anyone is going to take his place away, he probably would be Kimster, as you see AJOK go off there.
Running wide, that'll give Kimster a loop, probably not into this corner, but there's a long straight in a couple of corners time, which Kimster will have an eye on with his seemingly superior top speed.
AJOK a bit messy for this corner here. You want to keep to the inside as you see Kimster doing. AJOK not managing to do that. It robs you of momentum, and now he's really going to be under attack through here.
The kink not really an overtaking place, and it gives Kimster a run, and they're side by side through the kinks.
Yeah, interesting how he just duck out, and yeah, he's going to come back under now.
AJOK, slightly on the outside, is able to swoop round and retain the position. It's an intriguing battle because Kimster should be quite a bit faster, but AJOK just seemingly has the cornering speed to keep Kimster behind.
As we have seen before from him, but he seems to keep missing the apex on the corners, which isn't going to do his chances of keeping on to this place any good.
And you can see Kimster coming alongside and moving ahead, just moving across the track a little bit.
Just give him a friendly little, I'm here, and make sure you know I'm here.
And Kimster's passed, but as we've seen, it's not always done, but it should be going down the next straights.
As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, he should be able to keep ahead now, of course, with this straight line speed. They're going into the long straight. Should be safe from any kind of counter-attack from AJOK into the braking zone.
And behind this is Croffy on Don Matteo. Croffy with the blue helmet, and that was relatively simple. But Don Matteo fights back into turn 3. But
it's almost better not to attack into turn 3 and give yourself a better run through this long straight. Because we have seen people make overtaking attempts successfully and then immediately be on the defensive.
I guess it depends how much confidence you have in your car's straight line speed.
And as we can see here, Don Matteo now does have the inside line and takes a position. Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. A good counter attack there from Don Matteo.
Preferably the best place to overtake is on that long backstretch, because you have enough corners to put enough distance between you and the car behind you, not for that to happen.
Yes, yes, definitely. You want to make sure that you can just run a little wide there.
Yeah, you won't want to do that too many times or the stewards will be down on him.
It's not even so much that, but it gives Croffy a run into the carousel and until just a little untidy.
Oh!
Croffy into the barriers.
That is a hefty hit.
It did look quite a big hit, but he seems to have got away with it.
Still in one piece. We have seen people lose wheels on much
But he has lost his
softer
front wing by
contacts.
the looks of it.
Yeah.
No great surprise there. And Don Matteo keeps that position with seemingly little challenge coming from behind.
Now, I did talk about picking up the pace, and MDSP has done that.
Fastest lap.
Only a second off his pole position time, which is very impressive halfway through a race.
Indeed, we're past half distance, and the tyres don't wear as much as they did in the touring cars last season, but they do noticeably slow a little. So to be setting fastest lap at this stage is, like you say, very impressive. Although the fuel is being burned at the same time.
Yeah, it's always about that trade-off. You know, you gain a tenth of a second from your fuel going down, but you're losing time from your tyres going off. So it all does depend on the track, how heavy it is on the tyres, how much fuel you need to put in. But with it being a momentum track, of course, we have a replay here of the start.
Odd time to have that. It's Blady. This is when you got sent across the grass, and you see Miss Flobdog going right across.
Appears from nowhere.
And
The director must have seen something that he wants us to urgently see.
He gets hit from behind by someone, and
that's how...
that starts the chain reaction that sent a couple of people spinning into the gravel. This is on board with Kimster. Are we being shown this because Kimster got into the back of Blady? Because that would seem the most logical explanation.
See him come across there. A lot of weaving, as you'd expect at the start of a race. Things a little more liberal.
Oh, yes, he got into his own teammate. That will not go down well. And
amazing how he didn't lose his front wing through Dan Thorne swiping across the front of him. Here is Dan Thorne's on board. Got a very good start there.
Yeah, got a good start jumping in off the start and challenging P1 James.
Gets good momentum, just hanging around, see where the gap is.
And then he'll just see Blady spin out the corner. Very lucky indeed there.
It was literally given that place. Kimso seemed to shove him ahead almost.
Yes. This is PY James, who has lost ground to AGOK. I think we're about to see it. Just got in the grass a little and too much speed and spun into the gravel, and that's costing him places to... Is that Joe Speed and Kimster?
I think it's so, yes. So he's now somewhere between AGOK and Kimster.
Joe Speed gaining another place by virtue of not making mistakes and keeping his car pointing the right way, but Kimster has a run and spins. My goodness.
Too greedy on the throttle, as I said in the pole lap discussion. That's the worst thing you can do there.
And that allows PY James through as well and puts AGOK back on Kimster's tail.
Kim's just been very ragged, you know. He's got the speed, but it's not the patience which we do need around here.
I do wonder if he's carrying some kind of suspension damage, which would make these problems worse.
You can get very frustrated when your car has some kind of lingering issue and just doesn't quite do what you wanted it to do before. And
yes, I think we're seeing the results of that at the moment.
But Kimster will certainly live to fight another day, and that's not the last of him that Joe Speed has seen.
No, Kimster, car problems or not, is extremely quick, and Joe Speed, with the utmost respect, is not as fast as these guys even with damage.
But before Kimster, he will have to see PY James.
Yes, and PY James will not be easy to get past. Another fast driver.
He's only there by virtue of mistakes, or if virtue is the correct word, but he's not going to be as easy to defend from as Kimster with a slightly hobbled car.
No. And you just see how much in about 2/3 of a lap Kimster dropped AGOK. The speed differential between them is quite large.
It does seem to be the very slow corners that Kimster seem to have trouble with, so you may be correct in saying that's some kind of suspension issue, rather than missing a few aerodynamic appendages.
Yes, he's missing the suspension's stability where it matters most, like when you're under acceleration or in the slow corners.
He's almost closing up to PY James quicker than PY James is closing up to Joe Speed, so we could have a very interesting three-way scrap here at the end.
Potentially so.
But Joe Speed just keeping calm, keeping his head, just doing his thing. Certainly no slouch, and certainly no pushover.
No, definitely not. He's proved that in this race, and if you remember back to Manicure when he made his debut, he was fairly quick there as well. Kimster running just wide and onto the grass.
See, he's not hugging the inside like we saw him do before.
Joe Speed on the grass, that's not going to be pleasant, and that'll give PY James a run.
And indeed he goes around the outside of him.
At the kink as well, and even though the kink isn't as terrifying as it is in a more powerful car, it is still a very, very, very fast corner, and if it goes wrong there, it can go very wrong indeed.
We have seen in races past in really rubbish racing history how getting it wrong through there can result in a completely totaled car.
Indeed it can.
Joe Speed just a little squibbly at the back now.
Yeah, he's just a little ragged at the moment, and that's giving these fast guys a good run at him as AJOK spins.
A rare mistake by AJOK.
That looked like PY James did, where he just got onto the grass and spun the car.
And Kimster, side by side now.
With Joe Speed, and he gets past.
He's done very well there. It's not often you will see an overtake on the outside of turn 1.
This is where Joe Speed just ran a little wide out of the carousel, and that was enough to rob him of momentum through the kick and gave PY James the run. And of course Kimster would have gained a fair amount, and AJOK, two wheels on the grass, and round he goes.
And here we see how Kimster got by. He was in slipstream. He went defensive, Joe Speed, and Kimster said thank you very much, I'll just go around the outside.
Yeah, Joe Speed went defensive very late indeed there.
So here we see PY James in 4th position. Has he got enough maybe to get onto the podium?
He'd be chasing Blairy. I think Blairy would have to make a mistake, considering the issues these other guys have had. Blairy will have had plenty of chance to stretch his legs ahead, so barring any mistakes, it seems like the top 3 are quite comfortable at the moment. Which I think is demonstrated by the fact we haven't seen very much of them in this race. All the action's been going on behind.
Yes, that's for sure. It does look like things have settled down a lot now throughout the field. I mean, we're on the last 3 laps now. People have made their mistakes, but I think now we are seeing everyone getting a little more settled. The car's a lot lighter now, it's a little more manageable. I think this is, if we're going to see anything, it's going to be between Kimster and PY James.
Yes indeed.
He's just about got enough laps here in him, Kimster, to have a chance of getting onto that 4th place position.
Yes, but PY James is just... I think the gap is fairly stable, and whatever issues these cars may or may not have, I think they're both running around the same pace. And behind, what are we seeing here? This is AJOK, and Lynn in quite close contention, Dan Foran close behind him. So this is probably the closest action on the track at the moment.
Yeah, Lynn's done very well from that early incident where he punted Don Mateo off. He's actually made up a lot of places.
He's currently running 8th.
Dan Thorne there is always there or thereabouts in the lower midfield.
Yes, it's always a mistake. If you ever find Dan Thorne behind you, you know he's going to be making himself big in your mirrors and may attempt the odd lunge.
Yes, you don't want to be the person being chased by Dan Thorne.
Especially in this track, which has got several long straights into slow corners. Plenty of room for lunges there. Is that...
Slight lock up there from Lynn.
I think AGOK locked up ahead as well. I'll not be doing them any favours.
Everyone just trying to... It's that little window of doubt, you know, do I try and go a little bit faster to keep them at arm's length? And then that's generally when you tend to make the mistakes, as we saw with Joe Speed before.
And Lynn, of course, facing a dilemma here. Does he go after AGOK ahead, or try and fend off Danforn behind and potentially cost himself?
But I think Danforn's going to make that choice for him.
Yes, it certainly does look like it. Danforn getting very close indeed.
Danthorn, very experienced driver. Oh! I spoke too soon.
Oh, it's a disaster for Danforn. He's spun out of the carousel. He's gone to the end. P.I. James has also spun into the barriers again. But he looks to have got away with it. If you hit the barrier side on, the suspension is remarkably strong that way.
Yeah, they are designed to take those kinds of hits rather than the front end or from slightly from behind at an angle.
And so Lynn now has a free run at AGOK ahead, with Danforn having removed himself from contention, and we'll see the relative pace between these two cars.
If there is one chink in Danthorn's armour, is that he can get a little bit overexcited, and that's the second time we've seen him make a mistake at that corner when chasing another car.
Yes indeed. As you saw earlier on.
But it's good to see Lynn and AJOK having a battle here. We don't see them too often.
No, they've run on the fringes of the top 10 all season, never really challenging for the bigger points, and 7th place for either of these drivers would probably be a success. Although AGOK has had a few good results. He had 4th place at Vara.
Oh, look at him reel him in now, and he's going to go for it.
AGOK looks to be running an awful lot of wing. We saw a bit of Kimster earlier on.
And Lynn has got by. That was a kind of a hesitant defence from AGOK. I thought he would be able to cover that.
Of course, AGOK now does get reverse grid pole, and he will fancy his chances to hold on to that reverse grid pole, at least make life difficult for the fast guys behind.
It would be consolation for 8th place, but it doesn't look like he's given up on 7th yet.
No, he'll be wanting these points. These points are a definite if you manage to get them, whereas anything can happen from the reverse grid.
And here are our two leaders. There's MDSP and here is Flobodov. So he has made up some ground on him, but doesn't look like it's going to be enough unless Flobodov makes some kind of mistake going on the grass out of the corner.
And Flobodov hasn't made any mistakes like that so far. In fact, he's about the only driver who hasn't made any mistakes in this race. Him and Joe Speed, who's only made 1 or 2 minor errors.
This is a top racecraft from Flobodov. He's done exactly the bare minimum of what he needed to do.
He's utterly controlled the race from the front.
You sense if this was maybe 3 or 4 laps ago, he would now be putting on a little more speed and stretching out the gap a bit more.
Flobodov, of course, who has struggled in the past season or so and has had an awful lot of bad luck in this season. He had incidents at the Nürburgring and plenty others earlier in the season, and this win feels like it's long overdue.
It does indeed. He's always been very quick, and as you say, he's always seemed to suffer more from bad luck than any kind of lack of pace.
And everything has come together in this race. MDSP had his incident early on, and Flobodov was able to put the hammer down when it mattered and build up a big lead when he could. And this has been enough to prevent MDSP from mounting a real challenge as they come onto the home straight.
Well, he could have won twice already this season, but finally he is going to get his first win.
And full credit to MDSP with 2nd in only his 3rd race. A very impressive drive and a very impressive speed.
Yeah, chasing him all the way didn't make it easy for Flobodov.
He will undoubtedly be challenging in the next season. It's too late this season to really challenge for honours in the championship, but next season he will be right up there.
So there we see him, just over 26 minutes, 190 miles per hour, which I think is the fastest race winning time we've had this series.
Yes, Road America is about the fastest track we visited. Not many slow corners. And P.I. James getting well out of shape on the back straight.
Bizarre way to end the race. Is that a celebration gone wrong? We have seen that before from P.Y. James, making very strange last lap.
Joe Speed 6th, Lynn 7th, and AGOK will come home 8th. And
Also,
take reverse grid pole.
The mechanics aren't very impressed by this. They know people want to celebrate, but they don't want to have too much to do before the next race.
Race Pro 9th.
Down the one on the grass for some reason.
And someone's run out of fuel behind the results screen. As you saw, Mr. Flobodob wins. I think that is him we're looking at. And MDXP only a second behind in the end. And Blady 26 seconds behind the race winner. Kimster 48. And you only have to get down to Joe Speed in 6th where you get into the 1 minute behind. This is of course a very long lap, over 2 minutes. Don Matteo 11th, just missing out in points. And he was the last of the finishers. Croffey and Mastron Wolf both having accidents as Blady runs out of the fuel as well.
Of course, no one who finished was lapped, which is obviously one because it's such a long circuit, but the usual suspects also had a lot of incidents.
They certainly did. As you mentioned earlier, only Flobodob and Joe Speed were able to go through without any serious mistakes and other incidents.
Yeah, it's a very scrappy race, people getting a bit ahead of themselves and not keeping calm.
The curbs seem to catch a lot of people out, and the grassy verges. A lot of people just getting a little too ambitious on the power on the curbs and the grass.
I think it's because it's quite a tight track, so use of curbs is good for lap time, but obviously these cars don't really like doing that too often.
No, and of course if you do end up spinning, the barriers tend not to be very far away, and so an accident is quite likely, as we were seeing here in the highlights. But also despite the depleted field and despite that it was quite spread out, there were plenty of good battles up and down the field.
Yeah, we have seen before a lot of mistakes put pay to battles, but in this instance it almost seemed to create new ones.
Yes, this has been the International Master Formula R 2.0 from Road America. The round 12, second of 2 races from Road America will be up next. We hope to see you then.
See you there.